Hello and welcome to the Rockies Now podcast. This is episode 43 of the Rockies Now podcast. We are a Colorado Rockies podcast. You can follow us at Rockies Now on all of your favorite social media platforms: Facebook, X, Instagram, and Threads. I'm your host, Steven, with your co-host, Tom. Tom, how are you doing?
Doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Doing really, really well. Last night we recorded our first, threads, not threads, our first. Um, oh, hold on here. I got audio problems. Uh, there we go. Yeah, I had a pretty good day fixing Instagram here. Sorry for our listeners. Yeah, like last night, for those who are listening, we were trying to record our first Rockies rewind. We had some issues with that. Um, so we're going to try to redo that. We got some problems, if you want to call it that, with YouTube and other stuff, but we're going to fix that. But today, I think we're live on Instagram. And so we're really happy to have some of our Instagram followers here. So yeah, we should have a fun night.
Definitely, it's a good thing to finally be back. It's a good that we're able to stream now live on Instagram. And
Hmm.
yeah, it was for those who did hear, we did have that first Rockies Rewind episode where we look at a specific historic game in Rockies history. We hadn't ran into some problems, but we will come at, as Steven said, we will redo that sometime later date. It is an awesome idea. We're planning to do multiple games in the future, so keep your eyes and ears peeled for that for more details to come.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's been about a week, and we really wanted to do this podcast. Usually, we do a podcast once a week, as you all know. After a week of digesting everything, we decided that tonight was going to be the night we are going to talk about the Ohtani deal to the Dodgers. Last week, Shohei Ohtani went off the board, signed with the LA Dodgers. Then there's that the day before, the whole rumor about him going on an airplane from California to Toronto, and that didn't happen. And a lot of people thought, oh, he's going to sign with the Blue Jays, and
Mhm.
people were saying, oh, he's outside the stadium, and that didn't happen. And then the next day, signed with the Dodgers for 10 years, 700 million per year. And then a couple days later, they announced that he's deferring most of his money. I think 68 million per year. So he's only getting paid 2 million per year until the last year of his contract. And you look at the contract, the Dodgers basically got him for nothing because I want to say Austin Barnes, who's the backup catcher over there, he's getting, I believe, 3 or 4 million. So he's getting paid less than Austin Barnes to play for the Dodgers for 10 years. And this is a historic deal. And for a lot of NL West fans, including Rockies fans, D-backs fans, um, Padres fans as well, that was a sad day, sad time to be a Rockies fan, but it gives some of these teams in the NL West to have an opportunity to see Ohtani more and to, just kind of see him like at their ballpark, especially at Coors Field. I know a lot of Rockies fans are kind of mixed feelings about that because they get to see the greatest player in our current generation at Coors Field. But man, it kind of stinks because it had to be the Dodgers. But man, that was a crazy signing there. But it wasn't really surprising because we all knew that the Dodgers were probably going to sign him there in the top three for me. But
Well, my prediction for it was correct.
hmm.
Not that I'm gloating about that. I'm not exactly, and I'm not trying to call myself Captain Obvious by any stretch of the imagination. But uh, uh the thing is, looking at how this process I thought was going to play out, if I would think it played out as I thought to, I would say at least half the teams in baseball were going to give his agent Nesbitt, I think I'm saying this right, Balelo, a call just to
Hmm.
kind of check in, start the conversation, have try to get a feel for the years, the money, what his incentives he was looking for, all that finer details. And then I would say the field was going to be narrowed to about 10 as far as who are going to maybe submit several offers, not necessarily serious offers, but preliminary offers. And then I think it was going to come down to 5 teams being absolutely 100% serious and making concrete offers. And from
Hmm.
what we've all heard, the teams that I heard were in the mix were about what I thought. The Giants, as we know, are there with the Dodgers. The Angels were obviously going to try and see if they can figure something out, even though it was a long shot for them to retain him. I can tell you the Cubs were the Chicago Cubs were in the conversations. I do live in Chicago. I do hear all the rumblings and everything, and there are a lot of people around town that talk about this. They were in the conversation, but I think, of course, for all but I would say 2 or 3 teams, the negotiations got to a dollar level that most were not willing to commit, and it's
Mhm.
understandable. Whether it's half the contract is deferred or what it is end up being 97% of it's deferred, that's still a lot of money you're investing, not just down the road, because there's so with various things going on in Major League Baseball, particularly with the regional sport networks being in flux, there's a lot of uncertainty for a number of teams as far as what their future revenues are going to be. And right now, I did some homework on this as far as the Dodgers. They just appear to be the only team financially who can cover something like this, and it's strange to say. I
Mhm.
mean, just real quick, for those who don't know, Mark Walter is the controlling owner of the Los Angeles Dodgers. He's worth I think it's about $5.5 billion. It was somewhere in that range. He is also the CEO of the Guggenheim Group, that actually, on paper, owns the Dodgers, and they have $285 billion in current assets. So they
Mhm.
can cover this. They can cover this contract. And also, here's another thing. When I talk about the regional sport network with Diamond Sports, which has does the TV rights for about half the league, they filed for bankruptcy. It was about 3 months ago. The Dodgers not involved. They have their own TV. They're in the early years of a 25-year TV deal. 25.
Mhm.
That's worth about $2.5 billion. So they can take a screenshot, send it to whatever financial agency, to Major League Baseball, whatever creditor, and say, "Hey, we can cover this." So, from what I understand, they're going to take that 680 million that's getting deferred after the contract ends, put it in an escrow account. Shohei retires, whether he continues to play or for the Dodgers or not. Then the payments over time start, and they're going to pay zero interest on it. I mean, I
Yeah. It's
we'll
almost
talk
unfair. Yeah.
we'll talk more about this, but
Yeah.
am I upset about it? I mean, I commend the Dodgers. They found
Yeah.
a legal loophole that figured this out, and this is something that's going to come up in the next CBA negotiations in a couple of years. How much money can you defer? And there's people out there screaming for salary cap, salary cap. The union is never going to agree to
No,
this.
the
The
players
play
want that. Yeah.
Absolutely, no matter who's in charge, whether it's Tony Clark or Scott Boras behind the scenes controlling this thing, the players will never agree to a salary cap.
Mhm.
And the what was I going to say? One more thing about this. So the Dodgers, it's for us Rockies fans, it's unfortunate we lose Juan Soto. He went to the Yankees, he got traded, and we gained Shohei Ohtani into our division. Whether this is good or bad for baseball, we'll talk about this more later. But the point
Mhm.
is, I do, whether it was Bilelo's idea or Shohei's idea to structure the deal like this, I do commend them for figuring this out to now put a more competitive team around him, because if I remember correctly, this is how it's worded in the current CBA. One player cannot account for 20% of your payroll. So
Yeah.
if this was spaced out 70, 70, 70 somehow, it wouldn't work for the league. The union and the league would have rejected it. So
Mhm.
the contract. So uh, I mean,
Yeah.
it is what it is, and good on Shohei. He has earned this, given he is once in a generation type of player. It's unfortunate for Rockies fans. We're going to be seeing him quite frequently now, but more than we did when he was at the Angels. And yeah, again, we'll talk more about this, but that's the basic ramifications of it. So he'll make $2 million from the Dodgers team salary over the next 10 years, and then the deferred payments of 68 million from 2034 to 2043 will start after the fact.
Yeah. Wow. Like, it was really cool to see, because I think it came out today that Kobe Bryant, when he was around, rest in peace, he really wanted Otani to come to the Dodgers because
Mhm.
he already knew, which is crazy. He already knew that he was going to be the best player in baseball, and at that time, he was definitely already one of the best players in baseball. But he tried to pull him to LA, and I think that was one of the biggest reasons Otani came to LA to play for the Dodgers, because Kobe Bryant really wanted to see that. And as you said, and like I mentioned before, it stinks that we're gonna have to play him for 10 years, but it's kind of cool to see that how Kobe was able to do that. But you also have to give credit to Otani too. I mean, this guy,
Mhm.
probably close to Babe Ruth as one of the greatest players of all time, who can hit, he can pitch, he can literally almost do anything. And we could talk all night about Otani. We're not going to, but it's so incredible how good he is. And yeah, he signs with the Dodgers and of all teams. And I'm sure if he would have signed with the Blue Jays, Cubs, or gone back to the Angels, we'd be a lot happier. But for us to see Ohtani every day, that's kind of special, even though it's gonna suck. But it's kind of cool that we're gonna be able to see him at Coors Field and all that. But I know for a lot of Rockies fans who go to Coors Field's games down there, it's not gonna be cool to see the sellout Dodger fans at Coors Field because a lot of them come to Coors Field that during the summertime. But yeah, it's such a great player. But
Mhm.
we'll see what happens. And I saw somebody comment on Instagram. Hopefully, let me see if I can bring that up. He says
Mhm.
something like, you just imagine Ohtani pulls an Aaron Rodgers and gets hurt. Like I know for a lot of Rockies fans, we want to see him get hurt, but
Mhm.
at the same time, though, you gotta like you don't want to be like you don't want to be
Well,
too rude. Like you
mhm.
don't want any player to get injured. Yeah, you might not like that player. You might not like the team he plays for, but it just it's just that's you don't want to have that feeling into that. I mean, you just don't want to talk
Mhm.
bad about a player like that, even though you don't like the Dodgers. You don't want to talk about a player about that.
The one thing I think we should to just add to that, I think we should. It's unfortunate that we have to play against them now more frequently, but I think we should relish the fact that we get to witness greatness as
Yeah.
true sports fans. Me as a lifelong sports fan, I am thankful that I've been able to watch in my lifetime several great athletes across all sports. From one thing, I never got to see Walter Payton. Me being a Chicago Bears fan, I didn't get to see Walter in person, and that was sad. But it says only one thing watching highlights, but to see greatness in person, like Albert Pujols to Michael Jordan to
Mhm.
what's the football example I'm trying to think of here? I'll use Emmett Smith as an example. Just even though
Mhm.
I'm not a Cowboy fan, I'm just using that as an example. You get to see when you get to see legends play, or, for example, my favorite player, Ken Griffey Jr., my favorite pitcher, Randy Johnson, I got to see them play live twice.
Mhm.
So I just relish that I'm able to see it in my lifetime. Um, but I
Yeah.
mean, but yet it is what it is. And,
Mhm.
like I said, it, what more can we say about it? As far as the fact is, we're going to be seeing Shohei a lot more often. But the good news is, of course, as far as the injury point, he will
Yeah.
not pitch this year, so that makes it a little easier when it comes to
Yeah.
playing against the Dodgers, but not so much.
Yeah, and with the balanced schedule too, you're not playing him
Mm,
like 20 times a year. It's 14
yeah.
times, which is a little bit better. And the Rockies
Mhm,
don't play the Dodgers at Coors Field until June. I'm not sure about LA. Somebody on Instagram or Twitter or YouTube can check me up on that. But yeah, like K Anderso 7 says, Otani injury would make me so sad, and I'm a Rockies fan. Absolutely agree. And he said
mhm,
it's great for
yeah.
the sport, and that's another 100% agree statement right there. Perfect statement. Like it's great for the sport of baseball. Like, you know, yeah, the Dodgers, what they're doing right now, and I guess we'll kind of jump right into um the Glasnow signing. Is it good for baseball? And I think it is. Well, in terms of the player, because Otani is worldwide. I mean, talking
Mhm,
about all these people in Japan who are so excited to watch Otani go to the Dodgers, and yeah, they might become Dodger fans, but it's good for the sport because if it wasn't for Otani, I feel like baseball would be way down in the sports market in the United States. But with Otani, like when he signed with the Dodgers that day, that was like the number one thing on Twitter, on social media. It was everywhere, newspapers,
mhm,
everywhere. That's good for baseball. And I understand that what the Dodgers might be doing is like, they're signing all these players. It's not good for the sport. I can understand a little bit with that, but at the same
mhm,
time, though, it is somewhat good for the sport, even though it might not be good for your team. And yeah, like I'm sure, I mean, as a Rockies fan, it would have been fun to see Otani at Coors Field in a Rockies uniform, but
mhm,
it would have never happened. The Rockies just don't have that money. A lot of teams don't have that money, but and we kind of like everyone knew, like even a couple years ago, the Dodgers were rumored to sign him eventually when he became a free agent. It happened, but I agree with that statement there that it's great for the sport, and
mhm.
I guess we'll like I said, jump into the Tyler Glasnow move. Glasnow signed with the Dodgers. And just today, he got that extension. I'm not 100% sure. Tom, do you know what the extension is? Like, or what
Ye
the length of that extension is?
It's rumored to be 5 years worth, $135 million. Not confirmed, but
Okay.
that's what it's rumored to be finalized. That's the years and the dollars.
Okay. Yeah, and and they made a trade with the Rays. The Rays
Mhm,
got Ryan Pepio, right-handed pitcher who had some, he's a definitely a solid pitcher that might be a really good pitcher for Tampa. Then they got Johnny DeLuca,
mhm,
outfielder.
mhm,
So the Rays they didn't get a whole lot, but it was just a two-player trade each way. The Dodgers also got Manuel Margot, and there was rumors that the Dodgers actually preferred Randy Arozarena,
mhm,
but they got Margot. Margot is he's still a decent hitter, but I think they really wanted Rosarena, and that's going to be an interesting thing too to watch. Is where is Rosarena going to go? Because there's a lot of trade market around him, and people are saying he could go to Seattle, he could go to San Diego. It's going to be fun to see where Rosarena. There's a whole bunch of players on the free agent market that's just like, man, I forgot he's on the market, but the Dodgers, they got their number one ace for right now. And, and that's the thing too. Like, if you look at before they got Ohtani or before they even got Glass now, you look at that starting rotation, half of it are rookies basically from last year. The other half is questionable or with injuries. So they really needed pitching and they got Tyler Glass now. And Tom and I, we were kind of talking before we went live, is that the Dodgers, they have a lot of somewhat injury prone pitchers. And I saw something on Twitter or X the other day. That showed that basically all the starting pitchers in the Dodgers rotation have had recent Tommy John surgery. And
mhm.
so that if I was a Dodger fan, I'd be excited, but at the same time though, I'd be cautiously optimistic because you're talking about most of your rotation, if almost all of your rotation is injury prone. You've had the Tommy John surgery, before, and so that would be somewhat concerning. And if I'm a Dodger fan, like I said, cautiously optimistic. I mean, you're playing with kind of fire here, and so you're kind of hoping that this works out. I mean, the lineup is going to be good. I mean, Adele, you got Otani, and he's going to be pitching after next year. But I mean, I don't know. It's very interesting trade. Glasnow when he's healthy, and that's the big question mark that we've been asking ourselves for several years ever since he came up. Can he stay healthy? Because if he can be a Cy Young contender. And it just the question is, can he stay healthy?
Excuse me. Yeah, he's only thrown over 100 innings in 2 seasons in his career. I mean, this was his 8th season. He threw 111 and 2/3 innings in 2018 between Pittsburgh and Tampa Bay, and this past season was the most he's ever thrown. He threw 120 innings even in 21 starts to the tune of a 3.53 ERA and a 1.083 WHIP. He did have in 120 innings, he had 162 strikeouts, so he has the stuff. He was at one point, I think he was the Pirates' number one pitching prospect at one point. He was not their number one prospect, but I believe he was their number one pitching prospect at one point. I think whenever it was,
Hmm.
because of course that was when the tail end when they were getting about Garrett Cole was getting ready to be traded to Houston, and then they were hoping Glasnow would be his replacement as the ace. This is a big gamble. This is a huge gamble. And again, the Margot, adding him to the trade, I think was a Dodger way of trying to lessen the prospects that we're going to have to give up. And they're
Hmm.
looking to obviously add depth and, bolster their bench. If they want to make it, if they want to make a World Series run, they're going to need to bolster that bench because with Chris Taylor, I think going to be in the starting lineup in left field, that he was their utility player on the bench. So they need to make sure they upgrade that. As far as again, it's a big gamble. He, as you pointed out, he is injury prone. He has had issues staying healthy. He has had Tommy John surgery, so people will say, "Oh, he's past that." Well, don't forget, I'm not trying knock on wood there. I'm not trying to wish ill will on the guy, but
Yeah.
remember, a second one can creep up on you.
Mhm.
It's like I said, the Shohei contract allows them to make this. If they do sign that deal, it's a big gamble. Hold on. I think he either is 30 or he is going to turn 30. Hold on one moment, sorry. He
That'll
just
be
turned
great.
30 in He just turned 30 in August. So 5-year deal that'll take him to 35. A guy who has stuff, but again, can he stay on the field? And no Kershaw. We don't know exactly what his career plans are right
Mhm.
now. And like as you pointed out, their next best pitcher is Tony Gonsolin, who just came off his second season in the big leagues. Dustin May, his future's in flux. Walker Buehler, I mean, he did have Tommy John surgery 2 years ago, but he hasn't exactly been able to, he's not worked up to a full workload.
Mhm.
So I don't know what else they're going to do. I mean, Corbin Burns is still rumored to be on the trade market. Chicago White Sox, Dylan Cease is still out there, but the price is going to be high, and rightfully so. He is a durable pitcher. He's pitched over 30 starts in each of the last 3 seasons. So it's a good I think it's a good gamble. However, as I mentioned before, the Rays have a knack for letting players, whether it's position players go or pitchers, at the right time, and then they just find a way to replace it. It's just amazing what they can do. I don't know how they do it. I don't know what their program is, or if they have a magic crystal ball. I don't know, but they just seem to figure it out. So for the Dodgers, it could pay off. I think it's a little too much money to gamble on a guy like this. But again, they're the Dodgers. Who am I to tell you how to spend the rich teams in baseball, how to spend their money?
Mm-hmm.
It's not my money.
Yeah, and I want to mention this quick too, because this came across like Twitter and like my Instagram. But Jung Ho Lee, his introductory press was today. I thought that was really, really cool how he was able to speak English pretty well, actually, and being from Korea. And he was putting on his Giants hat and he said handsome. I just laughed at that. It was just so awesome.
I'll have to check that out. I'll check that out. I didn't see that. I didn't.
Yeah, it'll put a smile on your face. It's really, really cool.
Okay.
And he kind of jokes around in the video. And I think some of our listeners, they probably have seen that already. If not, go check it out. It's on Instagram, on Twitter. Check it out.
That was the complete opposite of Shohei's. It was very serious.
Yeah, and then, like he joked, like, and he was talking about his dog, because everyone was wondering, "Hey, what's your dog's name?" And it was like Decoy or something like that.
It's Decoy, I think is how you say it in English, and I can't remember how you pronounce it, the Japanese pronunciation.
Some word, and I couldn't hear clearly because the translator kind of, I don't know, he kind of said it weirdly, but basically in English is Decoy, and but where Jung Ho Lee, he was just relaxed, and he's just like talking with a mic like this. He just relaxed, and yeah, it was awesome. Like, again, check it out. But I believe he signed with the Giants for 6 years. I think.
Yes, 6 years. Yeah,
great signing for them. I know he was rumored to go to the Padres as well. Like the Giants, the Padres, they were in there. Great signing by the Giants there, and they missed out on Ohtani. I think the Giants really wanted him, like a lot of teams. But Jung Ho Lee, he's going to be a great player. I mean, watching some of the highlights when he was in Korea and in some of those leagues, and even I think in the World Baseball Classic, the guy, he has a lot of power, and this guy might even be a Rookie of the Year candidate easily. It's just the question is kind of like with Seiya Suzuki when he came over here. Seiya Suzuki had his first year was kind of rough. It wasn't terrible, but sometimes the first year it just takes time to like Ohtani. First year, it took time for him to adjust, especially the pitching. Because I remember when he came up to the plate, he just was kind of off. His swing was off. But then after a month or a couple of months or maybe in a year, he really started, becoming the guy who we see now. And I think that could, hopefully that doesn't happen. As a baseball fan, hopefully that doesn't happen to Jung Ho Lee. But the guy has serious power. He might be even. I won't be surprised if he, gets close in the MVP conversation. That's how good he is. That's what we've been hearing. How great the ball player he is, especially in the international realm. But yeah, he's going to the Giants. So I thought that was a very good signing for them.
Yeah, I think so. Because the thing about them is they rumored they made a similar offer to Ohtani, but ultimately I think he was going to LA. And then people made that real quick comment. I think people were saying, why didn't he sign with the Dodgers in the first place when he came over here? Because there was no universal DH at the time. So now that there's but not to say he could play the outfield. He's great of an athlete. But the point is, for this is a good signing for the Giants. I know with new manager Bob Melvin. Yeah, that's right. I forgot. I keep forgetting. It's Gabe Kapler's gone. Bob Melvin's in. I forget. Yeah. So for Bob Melvin, it's something he can work with. And again, the Giants, it's tough. They've been desperate for a quote unquote star since well, I don't want to say Barry Bonds because Buster Posey was a star. So, and he did talk recently about how it's been difficult given how the city has changed, what the economic development has been down there, and all that stuff. But again, the Giants, I think they're still going to be competitive this year. They have guys like Conforto. I don't know if Mitch Haniger's injury bug is going to continue to bite him. And then you got some pieces going around there. I think losing Jock Peterson is a good thing. That guy I've heard has had questionable work ethic. Yep. But for this is good for them. It adds an international player. And again, West Coast. So just like Ohtani, the whole country, Japan will still be able to tune into Dodger games for this signing. like the country of Korea could get in on the Giants for in this case. More international exposure for the sport for the Major League Baseball.
Yeah. And, I want to say even the Giants are in on Yamamoto, who still hasn't signed with the team. The
Oh
Giants aren't
yeah.
in on him, and the Giants need pitching. And I mean,
Mm.
there's still a lot of pitching out there. It's starting to dwindle down, but they still need pitching, and they could go out there. They could get Dylan Cease. But for me, it starts with pitching because the Giants, they have Logan Webb, but Andrew, I think Andrew Bailey, right? Who or
Mhm.
one of the young, pitchers that came up last year. I like him, but you need more pitching, and I think if the Giants want to get back to the postseason, they got to get more pitching. They got to get solidified pitching, and the lineup I think will take care of itself. They have a lot of bright young prospects coming up, and we saw a lot, some of them last year. And so yeah, I agree. I think if the Giants can find some of the right pieces, heck, if they get Yamamoto and they
Mhm.
have Jung Ho Lee in that lineup, you're looking at a wild card contending team easily. And the Giants, they're a team that's going into the offseason, they needed to make some changes, and obviously they got a new manager, and I'm interested to see what happens. Bob Melvin, he's a great manager. It's just that can they do it? Because again, even with Brandon Crawford. I think Brandon Crawford was one of the oldest guys in baseball. He's now retired,
Mhm.
and it's going to be fun and interesting as a baseball fan, and as a National League West fan to see what the Giants are going to do. They have Marco Luciano there as well. I think he can play shortstop, even second base a little bit as well. But the Giants are going to be interesting to watch. Like there's a lot of like the Padres, the Giants are really the teams I'm looking out for, and I think those two teams are going to be fighting for third and fourth place in the division. Again, probably once we get later in the offseason, once we get close to spring training and we start, looking forward to that, we're probably going to do our, predictions. But I think the Giants and Padres are fighting for that third, fourth place spot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe the Giants get Yamamoto. They maybe get the other guy. Is it Shogo Iganama or something like that?
I had to look. I can't remember his exact pronunciation.
Yeah, it's something like that.
Pronunciation.
I'll just go with his first name, Shogo. They could even get
Mhm.
him. I know a lot of, that's one of the sleeper Japanese picks on the free agent market. Um, and so, yeah, the Giants, keep an eye out. They might do something. And especially, I don't think they're done. I think, with their front office, they're not done. Like a lot of teams, they're just the Dodgers. Like we just said, they're not done, and we'll have to keep an eye on that. Let me see here if I
Yeah.
can
Yeah, the
find any more.
off season's far from over, but I do agree with you. The Dodgers and the Diamondbacks gonna be the top competing for the top 2 spots.
Yeah.
And I hope the Padres finish under 500. If that's the case, I think the Giants are gonna be scrappy and they could fit middle around 500. And then us, Rockies, unfortunately, this is still gonna be a feeling out year and kind of a evaluation year.
Mhm.
Hopefully a good one. Hopefully a good one.
Yeah. And actually, talking about Rockies, we had a former catcher, Austin Wynns, yesterday sign a 1-year major league deal with the Cincinnati Reds. And so now I believe there's 3 catchers on the Reds roster.
Mhm.
That leaves an opening spot for the Rockies. And I guess we can quickly talk about this before we kind of wrap up our last player or last move or two before we head into our Instagram Q&A session. Um, the question is, who are the Rockies going to sign, or who are the Rockies going to have back up Diaz? And I had some people, and I think some people who are watching on Instagram probably can agree, somewhat, preach for Hunter Goodman, because I know in the minor
Mhm.
leagues he caught a little bit. However, we saw, him play first base, right field last year.
Mhm.
I heard Bud Black in a recent podcast on Drew Goodman's podcast. Check that out. He was talking about how they would actually like to see Hunter Goodman catch a little bit next year, but they don't really know if he's going to be the backup catcher. I don't think he's going to be. I think Goodman's more of a utility first base, right field type of guy, maybe even DH. Because I think there's even an article about it by Thomas Harding, how next year there's going to be like a 6-player platoon from infield, outfield, DH. They didn't mention catching, so I'm just assuming that they're probably going to go on the free agent market, or either they could call up somebody from AAA, not Drew Romo, because
Mhm.
he's not ready yet. Uh,
Right.
Potentially Braxton Fulford or Willie McIver. Those are 2 names to keep an eye out. But, those guys, this is not a knock on those 2 guys, because I'm really excited to see those 2 guys come up eventually when they do. But I just don't think they would be necessarily backups unless that they just caught fire in AAA. I just see the Rockies probably going out on the free agent market, signing a backup catcher to like a 1 year deal, and Gary Sanchez is the most notable free agent catcher on the market. He has the highest WAR. I know the Rockies last year were interested in him, and then Tony Walters, former Rocky catcher, Tony Dub Walters, he is a free agent, but I feel like Tony Walters is kind of in that career where he's moving from team to team. The Rockies, I mean, Tony Walters was a great framer when he was with the Rockies, and the bat wasn't always there. And last night we were watching we were kind of reacting to the 2018 wildcard game, and we were just talking about how it was very unexpected. Tony Walters, he could knock out a hit, and especially in 2019 when he was hitting very well, especially in the first half. But I'm curious to see where the Rockies go. Mitch Garver is even out there. I'd like to see the Rockies potentially get Mitch Garver, who won a World Series this past year with the Rangers. Again, I'm curious to see where the Rockies go with this. I would imagine they're probably going to go something cheap, maybe something like an Austin Wins deal, but we'll see. But I don't really see them calling Drew Romo up because he's just not ready. He's I think the Rockies still need to somewhat see his development in AAA because he's only had a week or two of playing time in AAA. He needs more of that.
Looking at Spotrac and looking at the free agent catchers that have been signed or are still out there, Mitch Garver's projected market value is just over $10 million. So I think that's going to be, unfortunately, a no for Bill Schmidt. They're going to, as you pointed out, they're going to want somebody cheaper. The one that, excuse me, and Gary Sanchez, he's projected market value is around $9.1 million. But the point is, I think for a backup catcher, we're going to look at somebody more with more of a better defensive pedigree. The names that stick out to me, I like, even though he's not a true defensive player, I like Eric Haas. I saw him play with the Tigers and the Guardians this past year in the AL Central against the White Sox. He has some good pop. He's got some good offensive pedigree. That's got some potential. And like I said, he's a decent defensive catcher, so I think he would be a good option. It doesn't list his market value, but he won't be expensive, so that's one good thing. There was this is a big, obviously a depth piece to a minor league deal. Zach Collins, former White Sox first round pick. He is not a great defensive catcher, but he has a good AAA left-handed bat, so he'd be a good idea for a minor league deal for a depth piece. Oh, and here's an old friend, Dom Nunez is out there. He's off his He's off his deal with the Pirates from last year. There was one more name. Bear with me for a second. I'm trying to find who. There was one other name I was interested in the Rockies going after. It was Austin Hedges. Yeah, but I'm sorry, he's already signed. He signed with the Guardians.
Yeah, he signed with the Guardians. Yeah,
that's correct. So, never mind. This was it was Jacob Stallings from Miami. He is a pretty good defensive catcher. Not a good offensive catcher. He bats right-handed, throws right-handed. So he's 30. He's going to be 34 soon. I think that'd be a good veteran backup piece to sign as a backup to Elias Diaz until, of course, Drew Romo, as we pointed out, we all can agree, he's not ready just yet. Give him a full year, almost, if not a full year of seasoning down in AAA Albuquerque to get him used to get a more strenuous season. And then I think he'll be ready, hopefully, for 2025. But those are some options I think the Rockies will definitely explore but they're going to add catching depth. I know that there's a lot of options available. It's a pretty long list of free agent catchers. I think Bill Schmidt's pretty soon going to get to work on that.
Mm-hmm. And I guess we'll head into our last move. And actually, this happened today. And the Braves, they made a trade with the Padres. The Braves got Matt Carpenter and Kerr, right-handed pitcher from the Padres, for an outfielder prospect. With Anthopoulos doing what he's doing, the Braves, they're kind of making these moves, and they're most likely going to trade Carpenter, I would imagine, because the Braves, they've been making these small moves here and there this offseason, more of these, like I said, minor moves. It just makes me wonder, like, what are they doing? I think it's more like depth, I guess, in the minor leagues as well, just in case if there's injuries down the road. Hopefully that doesn't happen. I like the Braves team. But it's kind of interesting in what they're doing, and I like what the Braves are doing. I mean, for the Padres, like we kind of talked about before we went live, it's just that the Padres are just at this point they're just shedding payroll because they paid quite a bit of money to Matt Carpenter last year. So it's just right now with AJ Preller, he intends, he said that he wants to add some pieces, but first they got to shed that payroll. But like you told me right before we started, they have 3 players that are signed through at least 10 years. You have Bogarts, Tatis, and Machado. And so the Padres, it's just like curious to see what they do. Like there's like, The Braves, they're going to be a solid team. So it's just like, it's kind of like, I don't know, playing chess here. Those two teams tonight, they're kind of playing chess. It's just looking at some of these moves, just like that's it. That's an interesting move to kind of see, and it's just basically payroll. But the Braves, man, like they make these trades and they find ways to win.
Yeah. Just to remind everybody, the Padres, of course, lost their TV deal due to the Diamond Sports filing for bankruptcy. So they had to take out a $50 million loan just to cover payrolls for the rest of it was from August to the end of the season. And with the sad passing of Peter Seidler, may he rest in peace. That's really tragic. They have new ownership control right now, and AJ Preller is on very thin ice, considering how much money he's convinced Seidler to spend, hopefully to finally bring a market that is craving a championship. They lost the Chargers. They really only have the Padres to root for. Obviously, they have some colleges who have some good sports teams, but the Padres, the San Diego is starving for a championship. They couldn't do it. And again, Soto and now Carpenter, this is a payroll shed. They have to get creative with their payroll. And Alex Anthopoulos, he's playing chess while the majority of the league is playing checkers. He's just trying to bolster his bullpen. Possibly I could see him adding a starter or two to bolster that rotation. And right now, this piece with Carpenter, it's to add depth to their bench because God forbid they don't want any of their star players to go out with an injury. But either way, even if they don't, you want to have a strong bench if you're going to make it. I guarantee he's got some solid, even some bigger moves in the work because I'm not trying to say what they did was embarrassing, but the fact that they got to get upset by the Phillies twice in the divisional round, that can't happen. Yeah. Especially with the team they had this past year. I said this, I'm on record saying it was their World Series to lose. Only way they lose is they beat themselves. That's exactly what they did.
Yeah.
This next year should be their theme tagline should be no excuses. There shouldn't be. There shouldn't be. And with Brian Snitker as a phenomenal, he is a phenomenal manager in my opinion. I think he's top 5 in baseball.
100%. Yeah.
He knows how to keep that team alive. And again, the offseason is over. There's many more moves to be made. So we'll see where everybody stacks up when spring training starts. But again, this is a good depth piece move for them.
Yeah. Braves, hopefully they can find their way to win that division again. Because when they won the division, sorry about that, but find their footing in that division so they can beat the Phillies in the playoffs. Because the Phillies,
6th straight division title.
Yeah, and it just that team is so good. Yeah,
hard to see. Sorry about that, folks. But yeah, six straight AL East title.
Yeah,
NL East title. Excuse me. Sorry.
No, you're good. But it's just that Phillies team. I mean, it's just I think heading into this division series again. We'll get to our questions here in just a second. Thank you for your wait for those who are listening and watching on Instagram. The Phillies they kind of let's do this again. Let's speed up on the Braves again. It happened, and I mean, Game 2 that was one of the most exciting postseason games I've ever seen because I remember Castellanos hit to Michael Harris. And the outfield made that incredible catch at the wall. I thought that was a home run. Yeah. Then they get the double play at first base. And I was like, hey, maybe the Braves have a shot here. But then the Phillies controlled that series. Once the game went to Game 3 in Philadelphia, Game 4, it was just there's no way. The Braves, they lost it. They had no air. They couldn't keep their heads up. They just lost the entire confidence in the postseason. And that place was and it's just so incredible how the D-backs were able to win, in that environment. I mean, it's just incredible. And I remember the comments that the D-backs made. It's, we're not afraid to play in Philadelphia, and talked about the crowd. It's just the Braves, they need something like that to where they can kind of reclaim, who's the boss here, who's better than, which team, that sort of thing. Who's the bigger brother? So again, playing chess here, playing checkers, whatever game, you want to call it. The Braves, they're always that team. They have a great front office, great GM. So again, it's get your popcorn ready. Like a lot of people are using that word for their free agency. I'm going to say it for this upcoming season. Get your popcorn ready because this National League East showdown is going to happen again with the Phillies and the Braves. And the Phillies, they've been kind of quiet this offseason because I know there's been, a lot of rumors about, Snell maybe going to the Phillies or Sonny Gray, but Sonny Gray, he's going to St. Louis. And the Phillies, they got Aaron Nola back. But really that's been basically their only big move here. So, Philly, I mean, you kind of want to, do something too, because you just don't want to sit on your hands and knees because, I mean, you got to improve after losing to the Diamondbacks in the NLCS there. So if you're the Philly, you kind of got to get moving here too. You want to add some additions. I know that they already have a lot of outfielders and some DH spots, but Jock Peterson could be an option for them if they need it. But the Giants probably would like to see him come back, but again, he has his issues on and off the field. But we'll have to wait and see.
Hopefully Orlando Arcia says there are certain guys you poke and very few you don't. Bryce Harper is not a guy you poke. You
No,
don't poke.
especially what happened this past year at Coors Field.
Yeah, don't poke Bryce Harper. Don't poke him. He's not a bear that you poke. and I just love that moment where he's rounding second and just gives him the stare.
Yeah, the look at was it Arcia? Yeah,
it was Arcia, the shortstop.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what he said off the top of my head, but it was something, whatever. But yeah, you don't.
It wasn't nice. It wasn't nice.
Don't get Bryce Harper. Don't get on Bryce Harper's bad side. He will beat you, and he did that. He said. But to the Phillies, I think those teams, they'll meet if it happens again. Braves win the division, the Phillies win the wild card. They'll meet again in the playoffs. They'll meet again.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be his. But either way, so it's again, offseason's not over. There's still plenty more moves to be made. I think they've got. I think Dombrowski's got something in the works.
Yeah. Let's head into our last segment of the night. We've been waiting to do this, so thank you for everyone who's watching on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube for sending in your questions. Let's get started with our Q&A session here. So the first one is from Chadwick. Who will the Rockies take with the number 3 pick? This is kind of early. I mean, there's already mock drafts already coming out, which is kind of cool. I've been kind of looking at them. I would imagine the Rockies are probably going to look at pitching, but at the same time, though, and I think we mentioned this a couple of weeks ago on the podcast, you usually get the best overall player that's available. Like especially if you're in the top 3, top 5, you get the best pitcher or player available. And Chase Burns, he's I think in the top 10, but he's a little bit more down. The Rockies could very well go for Chase Burns and kind of save that first, save some money because you have like some lottery, not lottery, but you have pool money for the draft, right? And so sometimes you want to save some of that money so that you can get, a very valuable pick later on in the draft. The Rockies, they've done that before. They did not do that this year, but they've done that a couple years ago when they got Gabriel Hughes. They saved some of that money. They got Gabriel Hughes was actually in the lower ranks of the draft in the first round, picked him up, and which so far I think that was a pretty solid draft by the Rockies. The Rockies could do that here. I could see Chase Burns could be a potential pick, but I think I forget. I think it's Bazzano. Bazzano. Yeah, a lot of people are saying that he could go to the Rockies. He's currently at number 3 right now. I think he's an infielder. The Rockies, I think they could definitely go for him, but you do have to look at the depth. But at the same time, though, you always get the number 1, or the best player available. Maybe not number 1, but the best player available. And I'm curious. Like again, that's a great question by Chadwick, but I'll just go. Maybe they go get Bazzano, and maybe if Bazzano gets picked, I don't know. Well, again, this is going to change over the next several months because it's not like set in stone. Oh, this guy's going to be going this number. Like Dollander, this time a year ago, he was the number 1 pitching prospect, but he was still up there, but it was replaced by Paul Skeen. So we'll see what happens. I mean, maybe Chase Burns has a great spring, and maybe he'll move up in the top 3. If so, the Rockies, I think, will get him. But if not, I think we'll look at getting a hitter for the Rockies. So, Tom, what do you think?
Well, looking at Jonathan, I'm sorry, it was Bazzana. My apologies. Sorry, my apologies for that. But according to Jonathan Mayo of MLB.com's current top 10, there's only one high school player, and that is Connor Griffin out of Jackson Prep in Mississippi. And looking at the 25, there's only a total of 6. So I think it's going to be a college player. Bill Schmidt has a preference more leaning towards college players. Mm-hmm. And Bazzana he's the third. He is Mayo's 3rd ranked prospect. He is very intriguing. We can talk more of him in link, and maybe our friends at Blake Street Banner can give us a little more insight. But as you pointed out, this list can change. It can drastically change based on some of the Rockies' needs. I do like the player from Florida, Jack Caligoni. I think that's how you say it. I'm not going to try and butcher his name. Sorry if he hears this. I'm sorry if I butchered your last name. Or also another first baseman out of Georgia, Charlie Condon. I think he's a good pick as well. So maybe this is just me. Again, Chris Bryant's not going to be around forever, and it wouldn't hurt to maybe invest in a new hot corner first baseman. Uh, Again, we'll have to wait and see. But those are the three. If I had to give you a top three who intrigue me the most in the top 10, it would be those three guys. Again, we'll see how it changes as the college season rolls along.
Mm-hmm. Next one, Braves Worldwide, who I follow. Great page, by the way. If you're interested in the Braves, great follow over there on Instagram. Could the Rockies sign Francisco Mejia to be their backup catcher? That's another
Mhm.
interesting one that I
Yeah.
kind of didn't
Yeah.
realize. I mean, he played for the Rays for a while. I think that's basically been the only team he's played for. If not for the past couple years, he's played for the Rays. That's a good pick. Mejia, I really don't know much about him. I haven't really looked at his stats. But that would be something I'll look into for sure if I'm the Rockies.
Okay, I'm pulling it up right now. Yeah, he is currently 28 years old. He's from Dominican Republic. He is set to be yeah, he's still arbitration eligible. Let's see. He's been Cleveland, San Diego, Tampa Bay. He's got a career slash line of 239, 284, 394, career OPS plus of 88. So again, that's not bad offensive production for a backup catcher based on career numbers. The most games he's played in his career was 2022 at 93. When I do remember at 93, I do believe he was used more of I can't remember who their everyday catchers. I think he actually was the everyday catcher then.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think it's a good sign. His projected slash line for 2024 would be 247, 297, 404. 404, and he's projected to potentially hit 8 home runs and 310 plate appearances. Yeah, I give it a shot. That's definitely another good idea. I didn't think of his name for sure. I thought maybe he'd go to somewhere to looking to be a starter, but if it's
Mm-hmm.
out there and he's open to back up Diaz, I'd definitely welcome him.
Yeah, I would definitely take him too. I mean, especially if he goes in Coors Field, maybe those numbers will jump up. Even Diaz,
Mhm.
when we got Diaz, Diaz kind of had somewhat similar slash lines. He wasn't like a huge power hitter. He didn't have a crazy on base percentage. He didn't have a crazy batting average, but he became an all-star catcher a few years later after we get him. And so, I mean, he is still young. 28 years old. Give him a 1 year deal. I mean, the Rockies really, they're not like, it's not like they're going to look for a backup catcher who's going to be their backup catcher for, moving forward for the next. No, it's just, it's a rental. And, I wouldn't be surprised if the Rockies, whoever they get as a backup catcher, they're probably going to move him at the deadline if he does, well. But then we'll have to wait and see. I mean, maybe the backup catcher doesn't do well. Maybe they just want him to kind of be a backup, and then maybe they trade Diaz at the deadline, and then they have Romo or whoever slot up to that number one role and then have somebody, back up. So that's something I could definitely see. So great comment there. Let's move over to our next question here. We have one or two more. Let me pull up here. Yankees memes IG says, "Are you happy Soto is out of the National League West?" I am. I am very happy. The guy, he hit pretty well against the Rockies, but whenever you have a guy like that get out of the National League West, I'm happy. But like we started the podcast, there's another guy coming in. But I'm happy that at least one goes away instead of having both of them in the National League West.
Absolutely. Because I will say this when it comes to if I was to rank the top 5 hitters and based on just attributes related to hitting, discipline, vision, contact, power, ability to minimize strikeouts, I think Juan Soto is a top 3 hitter in
Yeah.
baseball. I mean, some of his seasons he's had in the past, arguably he was the best pure hitter in baseball. Juan Soto is first of all, I love the Soto Shuffle. I always get a kick out of watching that. It's awesome, especially the one in the World Series where he stared down Garrett Cole. That was awesome.
Ooh, yeah.
But no, I think I am very glad Juan Soto is gone. I wish him the best of luck in New York. They are cruel. If you do well, they'll cheer for you. If you boo like Stanton did, struck out 5 times in one game, they will let you hear it.
Ooh.
But for him personally, this is a huge opportunity for him. If he can succeed in playing for the Yankees and with Scott Boras as his agent, he is going to sign a very wonderful contract.
He's only 25 years old, which is crazy too.
He
25.
debuted at 9. He won a World Series at 19 years
19 years
old.
old, yeah. At 19, and like they won it without Bryce Harper too. So like I know Like
Yeah.
Braves fans, I love that noise, but even though they don't like the Nationals, but hey, at least but yeah, it's just man, 25 years of age, and this guy. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, next to Ohtani, this guy is the greatest hitter in baseball,
Yeah.
by far. And on base percentage, I mean, he doesn't strike out. He walks a lot. On base percentage is excellent, in the top percentile. Let me look at his stats this past year. So yeah, like this past year, 275, 35 home runs,
Mhm.
109, 156 in hits. And you're going to be playing at the short porch in New York. He's
Mhm.
probably going to bump if he stays healthy. He's going to bump up that home run total. I wouldn't be surprised over 40, maybe
Mhm.
even 45. I mean,
Who knows?
that's MVP type numbers.
That's
Um,
all. That's if and people. I got this. Somebody asked me about this. Well, he had a 275 average. Why wasn't over 300 if he's such a great hitter? Well, the problem is he put a lot of pitchers pitch around him. It's very
mhm.
and the thing about him, he has such a knack for the strike zone that if it's a bad pitch, he'll let it go by.
Yeah,
He's
like it's just I think he actually was. I'm not. I don't really. I don't have the stats up on me right now,
Mhm.
but I'm sure he probably was in the top 5 or top 10 in walks in baseball. I wouldn't be
Yeah.
surprised at all.
Oh
But
yeah.
I guess I'll bring up quickly the baseball reference page. But
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, in his career, he's a 28 WAR player, almost
Mhm.
29 WAR player.
Mhm.
2,704 at bats, 768 hits, 160 home runs, 284 batting average. And, it's not like, oh, batting average, but no, it's just like the guy, he just knows he's going to be a Hall of Famer easily. No doubt. If he stays
Mhm.
healthy, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. I mean, oh my goodness, like you look at 2020, I know it was a certain season, but his on base percentage was 490, which is
Mhm.
basically half the time he was on base. Like it was
Mhm.
that good.
Yeah.
And it just, yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it was just incredible, and then in 2021 with the Nationals, 145 walks, only 93 strikeouts. So he walked more than he struck out. The following year, 135 walks, 96 strikeouts, and then this past year, let me see here,
Ha
132. Yeah,
he's
he
only
had
had more stri
132 walks
yeah.
and 129 strikeouts. So yeah,
He's only had more strikeouts and walks in 2 seasons.
yeah, it's just
One of those was his rookie year. So, but no,
yeah.
he's led the league. And to your point about leading the league in walks, he's done it 3 times.
It's just unbelievable how good he is. So yeah, to answer
Mhm.
the question there, we're both happy that he's off the NL West. Like, thank goodness. Like, the guy's gonna
Yeah.
be good. I mean, he's gonna match nationally. I mean, excuse me, American League East hitting.
Mhm.
So I'm happy that he's gone. It just the guy can hit, but again, like we mentioned, Otani, he's here. But yeah, I'm happy he's gone because we
And
won't have to face him. And he Otani hit well at Coors Field,
oh
and
yeah.
he was a big bat in that Padres lineup, and they still have those 3 players, in San Diego, Machado, um, and all those other guys, with Bogarts and Tatis. But I mean,
Mhm.
with Soto and with not coming to Coors Field as often, I mean, we're still going to face him at least 2 or 3 games this year when the Rockies go to New York, to play the Yankees. That'll be fun to watch, but to play against Soto less makes me smile. Like I'm going to be happy about that. And so yeah,
Just last
yeah,
quick comment I'm making. Like I said, team play pitchers that like to pitch around him. Well, if you pitch around him, you're gonna have to pitch to Judge now because
yeah.
they're gonna be back to back. It's gonna be, I think, unless they add somebody, it's probably gonna be DJ leading off, our old friend DJ LeMahieu leading off, and then Soto and Judge batting second and third. So,
Mhm,
so to any pitcher, you want to pitch around Soto, then have fun pitching to Judge because
mhm.
you can't pitch around both because you know, again, good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I do seriously wish him the best of luck. He's an amazing player. I really wish him the best of luck in New York. Because I'm rooting for the player,
Mhm.
not just to sign a massive deal, but I would love. But he's such an exciting guy to watch. I want him to continue to put up Hall of Fame worthy numbers.
Yeah, and this is what the Yankees needed. They needed a left field bat, and obviously they
Mhm,
already got Verdugo,
mhm,
but to complement that, they got Juan Soto, and now the Yankees they're serious about getting back to the postseason,
mhm,
and I think they're going to make it. I think they're
mhm.
probably going to be at least a wild card team this year by far if the pitching's there, and Garrett Cole is doing his Cy Young stuff there in New York, he's going to be fine. Last comment here again from Yankees memes IG. Chris Bryant bounce back year. Really hope so.
Who's that?
For the past 2 years, he struggled with injuries, and Tom and I we've had long discussions about this earlier in the season. or I should say later in the season when we were kind of starting up the podcast and kind of growing it a little bit. We were talking about this, and it just like, I feel like Chris Bryant, you got to feel bad for him. I mean, you can't necessarily blame him for his injuries because, like, for instance, when the Rockies were in Miami, he got hit in the hand. Like, he was being pitched in a ton, like a
Mhm.
ton this year. And yeah, like, as a hitter, you can try to, back up a little bit, or maybe back up from the plate a little bit more and kind of, you know, change your swing, which, it looks like Bryant was kind of doing that this year. And he was kind of wearing some protective gear on his hand, especially after he got hit. But you can't, he got hit, got hit in the hand with a pitch. You can't really change that. Broke his finger, out for several months. You can't really plan that. You don't plan that. And it's not like, oh, he slid in at home plate or he did something with, no, it's just he got hit, which is very unfortunate. I mean, it just, he was, I think at one point really doing well in the season. And then when he came back from his injury later in the year in
Mhm.
September, he really cooled off. He wasn't hitting very well, except in that Cubs series when the Cubs came here to Coors Field. He hit like 2 home runs, I believe, in that series. Um, I hope so. The Rockies, they definitely need him in that lineup. You cannot trade him. You cannot sit him. You have to play him. He's your
Mhm.
highest paid player right now. You can't bench him. And I know some people are frustrated because he's injured and you want to sit him or bench him because you want to see some younger players play. I can understand that, but at the same time though, you're paying Chris Bryant to hit and you need him in that lineup. And I believe Chris Bryant can still hit. I mean, he's right around the same age. I believe that's Bryce Harper, maybe a little bit older, but it just he still can be a very, very good hitter. And I just think moving him to first base, as mentioned by Bill Schmidt, Rockies GM, a couple weeks ago during the winter meetings, that's the best place where you can put him because, if you put him in the outfield, I'm fine with that once in a while, but really to avoid injury and stress on the body, physically and even mentally, you have to put him at first base because that will make him a little bit, he won't have to run a mile to left field, Coors Field, or right field, where he can kind of preserve his energy, and play at somewhat of a position he's somewhat used to, even though he hasn't played a whole ton of first base in his career. He's more of an infield player. He played for third base with the Cubs for a while, as we know. So if he can stay healthy, he can still be a very solid player, and I think that's what they really signed him for. And but also too, like we talked about too, is a lot of it has to do with veteran leadership in the dugout because the Rockies, they need a couple of those veteran guys like Charlie and Chris. And but yeah, to just respond to that comment, um, really hope that we see a big year for Brian next year, or at least an improved year. And 2023 was somewhat of an improved year in terms of gameplay and the amount of games he played. He played about 80 games this year. I think it was actually exactly 80 games, compared to only 42 he played in 2022. So really hoping that he has a big year this upcoming season.
Given the money that we're paying him, we have to hope he has a bounce back. He bounces back and maybe wins comeback player of the year. I've said this before on a previous episode. He's not going to be 2016 MVP Chris Bryant. That Chris Bryant is in the rearview mirror, and it's unfortunate that a guy of his talent has struggled with injuries since I would say 2020, maybe a little bit of 2021 when he had almost had a full, almost played every game. I know there's still people harping on social media saying, "Oh, we traded Nolan and you gave us Chris and you replaced him with Chris Bryant." I will say this hopefully again, probably not for the last time. Nolan wanted to be traded,
Yeah,
and unfortunately, it's a divorce that had to happen. For Chris Bryant, he still has some. Again, he's not MVP Chris Bryant. He still has something to offer outside of his veteran leadership. I think he can still be very productive. And yeah, it's unfortunate in 2022 he played only 42 games. He made an improvement to play 80 this past year, and the numbers don't jump off the charts. But the one thing I know it's hard to think this and understand this, but when you're injured and you're recovering from injury, you lose strength, you lose your timing, your body is not the same, especially when you're playing at altitude more than for half the season. When you get back, you need to get your timing back. You need to get a little bit more of your strength back. You need to get used to game speed, used to seeing breaking pitches and triple digit fastballs. It's not as easy when you're injured for so much trying to come back. So I do sympathize with Chris Bryant with the process that he's had to go through. So hopefully, and again, hopefully he's 31. He's 31 years old. For the sake of the money they're paying him and the sake of the hopefully molding and shaping the next Rockies contending team, one can only hope that he will. If he plays 145 games, that'd be awesome, and he
Mhm.
is at least a slightly above average player, that'd be amazing. And it's truly just like what the Phillies did with Bryce Harper to extend his career by saving those legs, moving him from right field to first base. This is the right move. If I'm Bud Black, I would play Chris Bryant in the outfield in an emergency need basis only.
Yeah.
He's 6 foot. He's 6 foot 5 or six. Wait,
Yeah.
hold on. Is he 6'5" or 6'6"? Hold on a second. He's 6'5", so he can definitely handle playing the position. He's played it before in his career at first base in his career. It's the right move, and hopefully, we just got to remain hopeful that and have faith that he can live up to what is expected of him.
Absolutely. Yeah. Um, because if the Rockies do get kind of close to that playoff spot in the next couple of years, or if they're contending again, they're going to
Mhm.
need a guy like that because when he in his introductory press when he first came here, his goal was to help the young players kind of get to know what it feels like to be in a playoff atmosphere.
Mhm.
Because he played in Chicago, he's played in the big place in San Francisco in 2016. He played in the NLDS against the Giants. Huge atmosphere. He's been up there. He's won a World Series. Been an MVP, Rookie of the Year. Uh, that's huge, and the Rockies need a guy like that. And uh, the Rockies are paying him, got to play him. So,
Mm.
um, yeah, hopefully, again, we need this. Hopefully he has a bounce back year. Again, I wouldn't say, oh, he's going to have a huge year because this past year I kind of had aspirations of him having a big all-star type season, but unfortunately that didn't happen because he had injuries again, and it necessarily wasn't his fault, but it kind of hurt him again, and it kind of bit back at him. um but yeah, need a big year from him, or at least a bounce back year to where he can actually play. Maybe I'd be happy if he plays 100, 10, 120 games, because that's much improvement. Because they need his bat, they need his leadership in the clubhouse and dugout there. And I think that is it. I don't see any other comments here on Instagram or on Twitter. Um, if you have any other questions, feel free to let us know either on our X account. You can see right here on the screen. If you're watching here on Twitter or on YouTube or on Instagram, go ahead and follow us. If you have any more questions about the Rockies or just baseball in general, just hit us up and let us know. We love to talk to you and kind of answer your questions, or just talk Rockies baseball. We love to do that. Um, but for tonight, I think that will do it for tonight's podcast of the Rockies Now podcast. So thank you to everyone for listening into today's edition of the podcast. We'll talk to you all later. Hope you have a great night. And as always, go Rockies.